This is a scripted dialogue based on conversations I've had with a mixture of conservative Christian ministers.
I took notes on a lot of the issues you raised last time. I looked more carefully at some of the verses you cited.
Yeah, what I find is that Christians tend very much to focus on the good passages and not pay much attention to bad passages. But myself, I cannot ignore the bad passages because they're there. They are there.
I don't want to ignore them either. But I like looking at the difficult passages because once I figure them out, it makes my faith that much stronger. Yeah, God gave us brains, and I think He wants us to use them, for sure.
I'm reading a book right now called Goodbye, Jesus. In fact, you might be interested in it because the guy used to be a minister, a pretty successful and popular one. It's a guy named Tim Sledge. I'm only halfway through the book, but so far, in his case, his big issue is the hypocrisy of Christians, how so many of them do not behave like Christians are supposed to behave. He's at the point in the book where he gets fired, and he's finding out that he is not the only minister who got fired from his job for the very same reason he did, which is that the congregation split into two factions. Those who want everything focused on the Bible and Jesus versus those like him who saw great value in also using therapy and counseling and facing personal issues and not just praying and reading the Bible. And in his case, he knew for sure from feedback from his parishioners that he was doing a lot of good. But a very vocal minority got him kicked out. They wanted the minister to focus almost exclusively on Jesus and never mind all this secular psychology stuff.
So those are the two distinct factions in his congregation.
Yeah. that reminds me of a Norm Macdonald joke. He says, the O.J. Simpson jury has predictably split into two distinct factions. Those who think he's guilty and those who are really, really stupid. We discussed slavery last time and the beating of slaves being allowed by God. And my feeling is, for crying out loud, this is not a gray area. How can you believe this stuff as coming from God? Well, of course, I think I know how you can believe this. You've gone through seminary, which relentlessly indoctrinates you to interpret everything and anything in the Bible in a positive way, come hell or high water. That's the thing about Christian hermeneutics. You always try to make sense of a passage, and you're never allowed to conclude that it actually does not make sense.
Actually, I kind of love it when it doesn't make sense.
You do? Not me. I like clarity.
What makes sense about my salvation? Not a single thing. It's not fair. It's a free gift that comes out of God's love for us.
This minister is confirming my contention that Christians invariably interpret biblical ideas in a positive way. Here, he's being appreciative that he gets to go to heaven even though he does not deserve heaven. Yet he's being very unappreciative that non-believers go to hell even though they do not deserve hell. But isn't God ultimately supposed to be good and just and loving? Your Bible says he's loving. Shouldn't he be welcoming to all people who have led a predominantly good life?
I think he will, as long as they haven't made a conscious rejection of Jesus.
But take me, for example. I have made a conscious rejection of Jesus. I'm going to hell for sure. By your theology, I am absolutely going to hell. He who does not believe will be condemned.
Yeah.
When I leave today, you wouldn't want to see me run over by a car, would you? But when I leave here, you think it's okay that I'm going to be tortured forever, which is infinitely worse than being hit by a car?
Well, listen, you've raised some great points. Give me some time to look over some things. and study them. And maybe we can get together again because, even though we disagree, I actually enjoy conversations like this.
Yeah, me too. I've talked to a lot of Christians, mostly ministers, some authors, some professors. I talked to William Lane Craig.
Well, really, I think he's a genius.
Yeah, I think he's the best Christian apologist out there.
How did that conversation go?
Pretty well, I thought. In an hour and a half, we covered a lot of material. I did not think his arguments held water. The smoking gun for me was his position on slavery. He presented biblical slavery as indentured servitude and just ignored the hardcore slavery part, where slaves are regarded as property and allowed to be beaten. I thought that was very dishonest. Like with you, I regard you as most likely quite an honest person on a personal level, but theologically, I regard you as seriously dishonest for all these deliberately biased interpretations.
Well, okay, Mick. I do want you to know that I will be praying for you. I think heaven would be better off with you in it.
Oh, well, thanks. I appreciate that. Now, I won't be praying for you because I don't believe in petitionary prayer, but I do wish you well.